Designers, there's a lot of places running thick with designers.
Yeah.
As Bugs Bunny would say, we're up to our armpits with designers.
Exactly.
But the notion of the importance of design in business, I wonder if you could talk about that, where businesses are maybe being led by design as opposed to sort of putting design on top of what they're already doing.
Yeah, well, the old model was design was something that happened in the process, right? There were requirements that went in and stuff went out, and then it was manufactured. Today, it's more design is always a topic of conversation from the very beginning as to what something should be, to how it's made, to how it's delivered, to how people use it, experience, service it, all those things. All that should be designed, and the really great companies that
But
understand.
is the suggestion that the conversation starts earlier? That someone says, if I had a widget that solved this problem and it looked great, or is it more than looking great? Is it about functioned great, and that's called design?
Everything, right? I mean, when people use something, they experience everything about it, how it looks, how it feels, what it does, how it fits in their lives. You know, all that is really important. Yeah, so it starts earlier and continues all the way through. It's not just a moment in time. And like I like to say, what technology companies realize is that technology is important, but it's design that establishes it. It's design that makes it work in people's lives and attracts them to it. So it's become at par with enabling technology.
But I could do 2 years at the Harvard Business School or the Berkeley Business School or Stanford or whatever and not take a design class. But I'd have to take 3 classes on accounting and I'd have to take 4 classes on management theory.
Well, that's changing. That's changing. You're seeing more and more design integrated into B schools and design thinking and understanding of design and why it's important. And it's not just for art schools.
This is use a real-life example from your career, Beats.
Yeah.
A fascinating group of products. And I wonder where design fit into the evolution of that. Where did that company come from in your experience with them?
Well, you know, the initial, as we thought about the headset, the headphone is really a wearable technology, right?
Yeah.
It's something you wear on your body, and most headsets were, prior to that, sort of complicated and mechanical. And what really
the great ones.
Yeah.
And the crummy ones are just something you stick in your ear.
Oh, they should be driven. They're driven by function, which is absolutely important, right? But they are things you wear. And as more and more people, as you know, smartphones became the primary way people got their music and wear it about, what you wear and how it looks and how it feels, you know, becomes very important.
But was the notion that the product would be so much better because the design would be integral to it, and that was what was missing, is that design again was slapped on top? It was like a different pattern slapped on top of something that already existed, as opposed to something you thought about from the very beginning? Well,
I think it's just thinking about it differently. I mean, anytime you create something, you're designing, right?
Right.
But you know, it's sort of thinking about where you want to end up and how you want this to fit in people's lives again, which becomes important. And as you know, Beats was very, very focused on bringing a younger audience into high quality sound, and that's, you know, and so sort of building products that, you know, understood that and understood what they were about was very important. So why do you think this focus about developing businesses around design as opposed to, again, adding on design? Why do you think that's happening now? What are the drivers of that, making design more central in the business planning process? Well, I think it has a lot to do with success, right? And of course, everyone points to companies like Apple, you know, and then really seeing that. You know, I would even say companies just point to Apple. They start there. Well, yeah, you know how many people come into our office and say, we want to be like Apple, and
right.
You know, which
where you once worked as a designer. Yeah,
but you know, I said you're not Apple, so we'll work with the assets that you have and make that great. But the point is, people see that demonstrable success of design from not just a business point of view, but from a customer loyalty experience, all these things, right, that they're to trace all the way back to the design of the product. And so, you know, it's successes like that have caused businesses to really look at how are we designing, and are we designing effectively, and are we designing to our advantage, or are we just putting stuff out there and seeing what happens? Now, you mentioned wearable. We've talked about Apple and Beats a little bit. Beats is wearable. You're also working on some home design stuff. There's an interesting thing called Leo that you mentioned, which is a what's it like? It's a nightlight. It's a nightlight though that listens for smoke and CO2 alarms and tells you if something goes off and you're not there, or tells your neighbors, and so it effectively turns a simple thing into a more capable thing. And it's a lot of what's going on right now. I mean, everyone is, with this sort of Internet of Things, is looking to connect everything up in your home. And the question is, does everything need to be connected? And if it does, how should it behave and what should it be like? Again, is that do you think that the category gets bigger because it's starting with design, so it's more, it seems more natural to fit into someone's lives? Well, you know, the thing about, you know, the everyday things is they're deeply embedded in our consciousness and how we live. So when you start messing with them, right, and start adding more stuff into them, it's very important you think about how they're designed and how they behave and what they do and what people understand about them. And a lot of things aren't successful because companies try and shove too much functionality into it just because they can. And then people don't know what it is anymore, right? And I always say, do I really need a smart can opener? I don't think so. But
so the spork, pro-spork, anti-spork. You just want a spoon and a fork?
I want a spoon and a fork. I'm a believer in purpose-built tools and that do the job well.